The All Blacks are announcing their squad on Monday for the upcoming November internationals, and everyone's wondering, has Scott Robertson got a few changes up his sleeve, or are we going to see a very similar side to what we saw for the Rugby Championship? So in this video, I'm going to be doing a top 5 list of who I feel Scott Robertson will bring in for his 36-man squad heading to the Northern Hemisphere. Now, just to clarify, this is not who I would bring in. I would have some very different names to the ones that I've got right here, but these ones I believe are the most likely we will see from Scott Robertson, from his coaching that we've seen so far and some of the selections that he has made. But we will jump straight into it. Number 1, Cam Roigard. He is coming along very nicely after his injury that has left him out since the mid-stage of Super Rugby Pacific. He went down for the Hurricanes, and that is actually where we saw TJ Perenara get more of a starting role and eventually make his way into the All Blacks. Now, there's been no confirmation of whether TJ is going to be heading to the Northern Hemisphere, but perhaps with TJ heading back to Japan next year, it is the perfect time for Cam Roigard to get his spot back with the side. He was training with them in the later stages of the Rugby Championship, so perhaps we get to see Cam Roigard back in an AB's kit sooner than we think. And it would be great to see, because at the moment, I believe Cortez Ratama is their best choice, and there's nothing wrong with that. It's just more of a question of who else will be there with him. Is it still going to be the youngster Noah Hotham, or does he lose his spot to Cam Roigard, or are they going to make drastic switches, go with 2 new halfbacks for November? Those are all the questions, but Cam Roigard, I believe, has a very good shot of going back into Scott Robertson's All Black squad. Looking at number 2, this is where I've gone with Faki. Now, he is a Crusader representative, and that is a bit of a trend for this top 5 list. I will tell you that right now. He got to train with the squad last week for the Rugby Championship. A little bit similar to what we saw for Cam Roigard, except Faki was in as injury cover for Jordie Barrett. Now, that is an interesting sentence, because Jordie Barrett is an inside centre. Faki, a majority of his career, we have seen him in either the back 3, or he has been playing a little bit of 13, I believe, more recently. So, is there a chance that somehow Razor is going to select Faki at 13 before he selects Billy Proctor? Is that something that we could see take place within the November internationals? Either way, Faki, I mean, he's a great player. He's still very young, but I feel like under Scott Robertson, he would probably develop quite nicely, seeing as he's already been in that Crusaders environment. But one of the big benefits that Razor will see in Faki is the fact that he's versatile. He can play all those positions like I mentioned, and also isn't too bad off a kicking tee from a long distance. So Faki, he is who I think might have a really good shot of going in for the November internationals, but that is also down to whether or not Jordie Barrett is available, because from what I've seen, he's not going to be available for the match up against Japan, and he also isn't going to be available for the match up against Ireland. So perhaps just having Faki in the squad as a bit of injury cover is something we could see up until Jordie Barrett can return later on in the competition. I should also mention, it was announced not too long ago, although that depends a little bit on when this video comes out, but Clayton McMillan will be the coach in charge of the All Blacks XV. They've already mentioned that there's going to be quite a few changes amongst the teams, which is quite cool to see that the two sides are going to be working together. So we could actually see quite a few of these guys that I've mentioned throughout this list named in the All Blacks XV, and then get that promotion up to the main side. But Faki, he is my second man on the list. Number 3, I've gone Harry Plummer. Now, it might be a little bit more of a stretch, and perhaps that's more so what I would like to see for the All Blacks. He recently played in a Bunnings NPC Ranfurly Shield Challenge up against the Tasman Marcos. Now, it wasn't a successful one, but Harry Plummer, he'll still be very thankful to get some minutes under his belt, seeing as under Razor, he only got about the 3. Now, for him to get more minutes, I believe they would have to consider him as a number 12 option. And he can play there. We've actually seen it for the Blues in the past. He also offers fly half, but at the moment it does seem like there's more of a likeliness that Beauden Barrett will get that number 10 jersey, which is why I also think there's a bit more of a chance for Faki, seeing as he does cover fullback. But I do see Harry Plummer as someone they should certainly invest in for the future. He is a brilliant fly half. He showed it all throughout Super Rugby Pacific, and it may just be the case that he just needs someone to give him that big opportunity. And hopefully it will be Scott Robertson. So that is why Harry Plummer is the number 3. Number 4, this is where I've gone with George Bower. Once again, sticking to that trend of Crusaders representatives. Scott Robertson, if the selection of David Havili is anything to go by, if he can put a Crusader in, he will. And we've seen that a couple times already. So George Bower, he's already been training with the squad. He's been ready to jump in if anyone suffers any sort of severe injury. Ethan de Groot out for a couple weeks with that neck injury brought George Bower that little bit closer to getting himself some minutes. But I honestly could see them swapping out Ofa Tuangafasi throughout the November internationals and then putting George Bower in and giving him a chance once again in an All Blacks jersey. He is a strong scrummager. He's lacked quite a bit of game time over the last little while, but that didn't stop him, like I said, with David Havili. So perhaps George Bower is another Crusader that we could see moving into Scott Robertson's November international squad. Like I said, being announced on Monday, we will have to see whether or not it is the possibility. But the last man on my list for who I think Scott Robertson will be selecting in his November squad, or at least have a very high chance of being selected, it is Dallas McLoud. Now, once again, another Crusader, but he has at least been in form. So that is a massive positive for the inside centre. He's got 7 tries so far throughout the Bunnings NPC, tearing it up for Canterbury. Got a brief stint in the All Blacks last year, heading into that Rugby World Cup, but never really equated to too much for that man at number 12. But now that Geordie Barrett's injured, and it may only be for 1 or 2 games for Dallas McLoud, but I do think if he doesn't go with Leonard Brown, he's either going Havili or he's going Dallas McLoud in that number 12 jersey, even though maybe there are certain players that would be better suited for that role. We're actually got another video where we will look at players who I think should be selected for the November internationals, and it's a very different list to what I've given here. But Dallas McLoud, there's no denying that he would probably fit that number 12 jersey pretty nice at the moment. He has also got that versatility of playing out on the wing if you need him to. So I think Scott Robertson will look at that, look at his squad and say maybe there's just enough space to get Dallas McLoud inside of the 36-man squad. But do let me know, ladies and gentlemen, who do you think Scott Robertson will be adding to his team? Like I mentioned, this is not what I would do. This is what I feel Razor is most likely to select. Now, I have got a massive list here. I have 18 players that I think would actually do relatively well inside of the All Blacks environment based off Super Rugby, as well as what we've seen in the Bunnings NBC, the likes of Peter Lakai, the likes of Quintupai, Moni Narawa, you name it. They are on that list, and they are the players who will be featured inside of my video of who I think should be in the All Blacks. But thank you all very much for tuning in. If you did enjoy this concept and you want to see more of it, be sure to let me know in the comments down below. Also, be sure to leave a like and subscribe, and I will see you all for the next one.